This is the Tech Support Guy Show, episode 48 for Sunday, October 16th, 2011. Printf, Goodbye World. Welcome to the Tech Support Guy Show. I'm Mike Cermak, known on the site as Tech Guy, and this is a take two, but we'll pretend like it isn't, because someone screwed up, but we won't mention that it was me. And with me today is Brian Hansen.
Hello!
And Brian is keeping us in a good mood despite all of the technical difficulties we are facing today. And also, Jake is with us again, Jake Mueller.
Hello.
And he is not as full of energy as Brian is. We bring him in for his geekiness, not so much for his entertainment value. And also with us is Dan McCarthy. And Dan we bring to us for his hat. So the people who are not watching the video are really missing out, those who are just listening to the audio podcast. So I'll mention again that you can go to... Thank you, Dan. Thanks. Appreciate that. I'll mention that you can go to techguy.tv or look it up in iTunes. Just search for the Tech Support Guy Show, and you can download the video version as well as the audio version, assuming that I don't mess things up on the video recording. So, that said, we were about to jump into a news story when someone messed up the recording earlier, and someone in the chat room says it's because I always mess things up, and I don't know who that handy 9 person is. But, so we were talking about Microsoft buying Skype. So the... story is that Microsoft is purchasing Skype, presumably from eBay. I don't know if anyone had a chance to verify that part yet, for $8.5 billion with a B. And we were trying to discuss what they're going to do with it, why they're purchasing it, and if we think they're paying way too much for it. So I think Brian was starting to jump in on that.
I just think it's an insane amount of money, and also I have no idea why the heck eBay bought it to begin with.
Right. Good question. Now, the rumor was that eBay had hoped that it would help with the communications between buyers and sellers. They hoped to use it as some sort of instant communication with, so that, a potential buyer can talk to a seller. But that never really turned into anything. And I don't know how accurate that is. That's just what I heard.
When eBay bought it, there was a lot of licensing contention about who actually owned the licenses for it, if I remember correctly.
I believe you're correct. With the original owners, I think they claimed that some of the P2P type technology that it uses was still owned by them or something to that effect.
Right.
eBay acquired Skype in 2005 and significantly expanded its customer base to more than 480 million registered users worldwide. To focus on its core e-commerce and payments business, eBay sold the majority stake in Skype in November of 2009, retaining minority investment in the company. In May of 2011, Microsoft announced that it will acquire Skype for $8.5 billion. And that's what was just approved, or just finalized, I guess, here the last couple of days.
Well, there's a little bit of speculation out there that this is an $8.5 billion game of keep away.
Keeping it away from who? Apple?
Google.
No.
Google. That's a good call.
Where? Motorola?
Google.
Oh, Google. Yeah. Well, same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I could see that.
Well, and I don't know if Apple would be interested anyway. They've got their FaceTime thing they're doing, and interestingly, they're making a good effort to keep that out of PCs and other devices so that if you want to use FaceTime, you have to use an Apple device. So they could certainly open that up if they wanted to, and I don't think they have any interest in doing that.
Make everyone use an Apple or MacBook or
right.
Air
that's
whatever,
something
or
else they're
I
trying
whatever.
to use to differentiate themselves.
That's what they've been doing.
Yeah.
And that's what they do. They like to make things, what's the word I'm looking for?
Proprietary.
Proprietary, exactly. Yep. That's the Apple
remember
way.
when Google Plus, they released a video portion, for their, social media site. At that point, Facebook and Skype kind of teamed up to do the same thing. So when you say that they're keeping away from Google, I think you might be right.
Yeah. It's interesting to me because I don't know that, I felt like Google Voice and the stuff that Jake is mentioning about Google Plus being able to do video already, like, I don't know what Google would get for $8.5 billion out of the Skype. business. Because they certainly wouldn't keep the brand around, I wouldn't think.
Yes, they are. It is the Skype Microsoft division. Yep.
Yeah, but Google wouldn't. If they acquired it, they would just fold it into what already exists as
but it would be exclusive. Then Google would be the only voice video chat.
Mm-hmm. You don't want them to have a monopoly on it. And Ecom in the chat room just posted a link here where the new version of Skype 5.5 and 5.6 came out, which is the first release from Microsoft. And, of course, the difference is that it no longer includes Google Toolbar or Google Chrome or any of the other Google add-ins on it. Which, makes sense no matter what. Yeah, even if I bought it, it wouldn't include that anymore. But, unless Google was paying me for it. Yeah, I mean, it's...
Right.
With my $8.5 billion, I would probably get something else. But
pocket change.
Jet ski.
So are they overpaying for it? How are they going to... I mean, $8.5 billion, I guess, isn't that big of a deal to Microsoft. But...
Yeah. I think you'd have to look at the business side of Skype, where Skype actually made its money. Because Skype was
makes
making money.
Is it profitable?
So how were they making that money?
Yeah, I don't know how profitable Skype has been.
It says here that they were valued at $2.5 billion 18 months ago.
Well, so then Microsoft got a bargain.
Yeah, that sounds a lot like Keep Away.
I'm thinking so. I don't know.
We're expecting a nana boo boo.
Yeah. Well, so is this going to be integrated into Windows 8 then? Is that what's... Like FaceTime is integrated into iOS? Are we going to see Skype integrated into Windows?
I bet you're right.
Yeah. Just looking into my crystal ball a little bit. All right. Anything else on Skype, or are we going to move on to the next thing?
The one thing I have left on Skype is that there's some concern in the Linux crowd that Skype will no longer be fully supported in Linux. But now Ballmer has come out and said we will continue to support non-Microsoft platforms because it's fundamental to the value proposition of communications.
Well, that's very wise of him to say, and I agree completely. I mean, I think that if you're going to compete against something like FaceTime where it's all proprietary, you have to have an open system that'll work on a lot of different types of devices.
I'd like to pause here and just
do we have a commercial
bask
break?
In the irony of Microsoft buying something to keep it open.
Huh. That is worth a pause.
True. But now let me ask you this. And I think we touched on this one or two podcasts ago. They're keeping the Kinect. They actually built an open developers kit for that, right? They opened up the SDK after people were hacking into it anyway and finding.
Yeah, well, that was a necessity. They did that because it was getting hacked anyway.
Right, but I think they learned that there's so much more value to be had from letting users do what they can do with technology.
I think the Kinect was open because they didn't understand what the Kinect could be used for entirely, and they saw what it could be used for after people had hacked it.
Well, and I think part of that is that the Kinect was developed as a gaming platform, and I think the people who developed it, were thinking strictly in that small realm. I don't think that they were, trying to think of this as the next big thing for Microsoft. They were thinking this is a game controller.
Right. Well, and to be fair, I mean, the only reason... Well, one of the major reasons that so many people are hacking into it is because it's so cheap to buy that stereoscopic camera technology, whereas before it was prohibitively expensive to try and do some of these things that people are doing with them because the cameras were too expensive and the technology wasn't there to link the three cameras together. So by virtue of them being Microsoft and coming with their billions of dollars to make that technology affordable for the everyman, I think they did a good thing. Rare for Microsoft, but I think it's good.
So maybe that's going to be a sign of things to come for Microsoft. Maybe we're going to see them going open source to try and compete with Apple.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Right. Mm-hmm. Well, I'll hold my breath on that.
Yeah, I don't think so, but I think that they are embracing the open model a little bit more. Not that they are open sourcing anything of their own, but they are embracing open source a little bit more readily than they were in the past.
Definitely. Well, and this is one small display of that. So speaking of competing with Apple, I guess they do have something more to worry about. We have the iOS 5 that was just released last week. I know I guess Brian, I guess Dan and Jake are both Android guys, and I've got my Android as well. I don't know if I'm an Android guy, but I've got one. And Brian, I guess you're the only one we have with us who is a iPhone guy.
Yeah. So I think the iOS 5 was officially released on, I want to say Wednesday.
Sounds right.
And then like the entire world tried to download it at once, and of course that doesn't really work, no matter how many Amazon servers you can, dial up. So it was a big, snafu, for lack of a better word. But then I got in on Thursday. Lots of people having problems upgrading their iPads and upgrading their iPhone 3Gs. I had no problems. Did take about 2 hours to do my iPhone on a Thursday night. Then I did my iPad on Friday morning at like 4 o'clock West Coast time, and that took like an hour. And I have to say, a lot of the new features kind of go unnoticed from day to day. But I think there's a lot of stuff that is kind of cool. Like I'm kind of glad they finally added reminders. That was a big thing for me. I couldn't understand why I had to make a whole calendar invite just to have a task list
Right.
On my phone. The biggest thing, obviously, is the iCloud, which I'm not sure how I feel about it yet. It hasn't been 100% effective, but I think that's a little bit of growing pains, right? Like it's only been out for 4 or 5 days, when everybody and their brother has been trying to get their first 500 photos uploaded to PhotoStream and get everything connected, pages, numbers, documents, all that stuff in the cloud. But in short order, my wife is going to get an iPhone 2, and being able to be completely synced up across all of our stuff without ever even having to connect to the Mac at home, that is pretty cool.
That is pretty cool, yeah. And it's nice also that in the future you'll be able to download iOS updates over the internet rather than having to plug it into a computer. They're going to do the whole not having to be connected to a computer thing.
Right.
Which always bothered me. Whenever I bought my iPad, and Heather has an iPhone, I was always surprised that before you can do anything with it, you have to connect it to a PC. And I've never seen another smartphone that is like that. Like, why can't you register me through this fancy new device I just bought?
Yeah, I don't know what that's. I don't know what that's about.
So it makes sense now that they're moving away from that, and I forget what they called it, but they had the whole they had a picture of the cable getting cut, that you no longer have to have it plugged in to do everything. So that's
PC
cool.
free is what it's called.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So that's cool. The other thing that I think is a huge deal is the notification center. And I don't know how they didn't do that before. That is one thing that always did bother me about iOS, that notifications were one notification in the center of your screen that you have to deal with right now. And the notification center is like every other mobile OS that's out there, including Android, and it reminds me a lot of, good old Palm Web OS. Rest its soul. But anyhow, I think it makes a lot of sense. So you use your finger and pull down from where the time is, and it shows you the list of reminders and other things that are going on, messages and other notifications all in one place.
Right. Yeah, no, definitely a smart kind of no-duh thing that they probably should have been in a couple of iOS versions ago. But
right.
It's there, and it is done with style, as always. The other thing that was kind of interesting, I don't really know if I'm ever going to use this, but the whole iMessage thing, basically making it possible for anybody using an iOS 5 device to send text messages back and forth between iOS 5 devices.
Right, and not just text messages, but
photos, videos, locations, and you can trade contacts back and forth. So, yeah, pretty cool. I guess I don't know. Why wouldn't I just send a text message?
Text messages cost.
Right.
And using
it's true.
Using this new feature does not cost.
Yeah, that's true.
And
so
there are actually concerns now that using that service, you're going to cut into carrier income.
Yep, MMS and SMS and right.
Yeah. Which means that we will eventually see higher rates on the rest of our phone bills that don't have the Apple iOS whatever. Thank you, Apple.
Well, the thing about the iMessage, though, it reminds me a little bit about that BlackBerry messaging system. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that or heard about that, but
I've used it.
And the thing that worries me about that is that it's a central point of failure. I mean, we just saw that with BlackBerry here recently, that in order to use a BlackBerry, you always go through their servers, and we just had all those BlackBerry servers go down here for, what, a day and a half or something?
True.
So, but it's just iMessage. It's not your web surfing and everything else, unlike BlackBerry isn't going to go through them. I don't know.
The fortunate part of iMessage that I'm glad they finally freaking added is the ability to have group messages and have multiple people all in one conversation.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. No, that's really cool, actually.
Yeah. It was always really kind of annoying to send, because right now, if you send an SMS message to multiple users, everybody that replies, it shows up in a new conversation for that sender, as opposed to being part of the conversation. So they've threaded some of this messaging stuff finally.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Of course, people end up getting confused with that and reply to all when they don't mean to. But
oh yeah.
All right. What else is new about iOS? Anything else we need to make sure we mention? I mean, the iPhone 4S isn't a big excitement for me. I don't know about you guys. It's a small upgrade, faster, dual processor. I don't know, a little better camera, and of course the what's it called? Siri? What's the
Siri?
Yeah, that doesn't do a whole lot for me. I don't know. I'm sure that in future versions it'll be really cool, but the demo videos I've seen of it have been less than impressive. I don't know. I can't see myself using it.
I don't know. I was pretty impressed by the demo videos.
Is that right?
Like, what's it like outside? And it comes back and says, the weather today is 65 degrees with a chance of rain. Pack an umbrella. Creepy, but cool. That ability to understand colloquial stuff and not have to speak in colons and slashes. That's pretty cool.
I think that the problem is some of the demos I've seen, it didn't work that well. It misunderstood what the person was asking when it was pretty clear what they intended to ask, and it would decide to give them the weather or the closest electronics store or something that had nothing to do with what they were asking. But, I think that it's going to be further developed. It's relatively new, even though it is based on an application Apple bought. But it's, not really been... it's the first big release of it, so...
Yeah,
I hold out hope for it, but as of right now, it's not a reason for, I think, anyone to run out and buy the 4S. I don't see any reason for anyone to run out and buy the 4S.
Correct. I agree. And it's even less of a reason now. I just read this morning they've actually already ported the Siri application back to iPhone 4.
You're right, and you're correct in saying back to, because originally it was an application that was out on the iPhone 4, and then Apple removed it from the App Store whenever iOS 5 is coming out. So now someone has ported it so that it will work again back on iPhone 4. So I think Apple is trying to find some reason to sell people the 4S. Like, well, we got a better camera in it. What else you guys got?
What else? Yeah.
So like, well, what if we pull this feature out of the old phones and say it's something new? So I don't know. Okay, cool. Yeah, it's neat. I like the iOS 5, but not thrilled about the 4S. A little disappointed.
Yep, I'm with you. I was disappointed too.
So I guess that's so they can build us up to the iPhone 5 next year. Is that the?
Yeah, there'll either be an iPhone 5 next year or an iPad 3, possibly both. My guess would actually be iPad 3.
Is that right?
Yeah, that'd be my guess. Since February, March.
Since they just did the updated iPhone, it's time for a new iPad, huh?
Yep. One and done.
And they got to give you just enough of an update to make you want to go out and buy it.
Yeah.
No reason to jump ahead. They probably have other things planned, but they got to give you just enough to sell you a new device.
That's right.
All right. Cool enough. Moving on. So I found this story here. I'm going to post it in the chat room. And, of course, those who are listening, you can join us live whenever we do this show. Oh, we didn't figure out what the next one will be. We'll figure that out, and we'll post it at techguy.tv. And you guys can join in. And we've got a couple of people viewing anonymously. And Ecom, as always, in there giving us some good hints and stories. But I found this story I just posted in there about the this smartphone ultrasound finally hits the market. And what it is, it's a small ultrasound device that actually connects into a smartphone so that you have a small, portable, relatively cheap ultrasound device rather than having to have the big, bulky, tens of thousands of dollars or more ultrasound machine. This thing's only $7,500 only, so you probably don't need one at home. But for clinics that are in poorer parts of the country, or especially third world countries, or maybe even mobile applications, kind of a cool idea to have a mobile ultrasound. I'll try and put a picture up here on the video. There we go. So what do you guys think about that? Is this cool? Is it amazing? Is it lame? Does no one care? No one cares. All right.
I think that I would have thought it was a lot cooler had it been available when Karen was incubating. But
so you would have purchased one? Oh, I think Danny's connection's doing something funny. You should see yourself on the video. It's crazy.
Awesome.
We can try and disconnect and reconnect from Danny. But my wife just walked in the room. She says it looks like Dan's going into a seizure. For fun here, I'm going to bring it up onto the screen here so that those watching the video can enjoy what I'm seeing here.
That's awesome.
I'm not sure.
He's always like that.
Wow.
That's normal.
Jake says he's always like that. That's normal. Right, so. Oh, man. So I'm going to reconnect here. And we'll get him reconnected here. But in the meantime, we'll keep talking. I'm not going to edit this out.
Oh, that's Rich.
Kind of funny. Yeah, I thought it was kind of cool. I'm not sure if maybe you need the ultrasound device there.
Yeah.
So, Dan and Brian, for that matter, whenever Heather was pregnant with Cameron, we rented one of those, what's it called? The little, not ultrasound, but...
the heartbeat monitor?
Yeah, the Doppler.
Mm-hmm.
Doppler heartbeat monitor, so you could actually listen. And did you do one of those too?
Yeah. Yeah.
So in a couple of years, are they going to have these little mini ultrasounds available for rental as well?
That would be pretty cool.
I guess it would. I don't know what the risks are associated with it, but I don't know. Because with the Doppler, it's just really listening. With the ultrasound, it's actually sending something out. So I suspect that it would not be good to do that too often. I don't know.
I know Renee has told me a couple times, like, the risks elevate the more ultrasounds you have to get. So they really don't like to do more than the 2 or 3 that a standard pregnancy would have. So if you start making a very cool application like this available to anybody with $5 or $6 extra grand lying around,
or rental is what I was thinking. Not necessarily purchase, but you pay $50 a month to rent it.
Yeah, but what are you really getting? I mean, when you look at an ultrasound, as somebody, just a layman, I don't know what I'm looking at. It's just a black and white picture of nonsense, really. You really kind of need a doctor to interpret what you're seeing. If you can rent one and bring it home, what are you really getting out of it?
That's a good point.
Yeah, I could see a lot of people kind of, plugging this thing into their phone and then using AirPlay to put it on their TV, and then spending hours trying to figure out what the heck they're looking at.
YouTube videos all over the place. Facebook will be filled up with it.
Right.
That'll be the next big thing.
And people start remixing their ultrasounds into music videos, and this is just going to get nuts. And we're going to have a lot of 3-eyed babies born.
That's not funny. Oh, man. Yeah, I don't know. It's so I guess we're saying this is good for... Cameron's talking too. I guess this is good for, medical applications and such, but not so much for the everyday user because of that. Yeah. I don't know. They may have said the same thing whenever those little Doppler things came out. But so the other problem with this is that it is based on a smartphone, and that's supposed to, of course, decrease the cost of it. But it is based on the Windows Mobile 6.5.
Right.
So the problem is that it was developed, a couple of years ago, just got FDA approval and is now being sold, and so it's a little bit behind the times. So it'd be a lot cooler if they came out with a version that, could plug into an iPhone or an Android or some sort of device that people actually still use, so that you wouldn't have to get this antiquated, old phone in order to use it. I don't know.
I don't know. I'm hoping, at least initially, they'll require folks to be certified in ultrasound technology or as an ultrasound technician to purchase one of these things, and at the very least keep it behind a lock and key in the CVS pharmacy.
You don't want to run out to your local Walmart and buy one of these?
No, I don't think so. But I'm rational, and as we know, some pregnancy ridden women are not rational when it comes to their baby.
That's true.
Pregnancy-ridden women. I don't think we're going to get any flack for that one at all.
I don't get any complaint emails from our listeners, so if Mike's getting them, then he can just take it as punishment for screwing these things up every time.
Yeah. Now it's my fault that you said that pregnancy is some kind of a disease that,
I didn't say disease.
No, I'm pretty sure that's what isn't that what he said, Dan? Isn't that what you heard?
That's kind of what I interpreted, yeah.
Interpreting this. That's not what I said.
All right.
Pretty much replace pregnancy with pox, and it would be the same sentence.
I think you're right.
Yeah, pox-ridden women, yeah.
At this point, I must disconnect myself out of self-preservation.
Oh, man. All right, so none of us are going to be buying the ultrasound device anytime soon, but I think it is something cool that they can do this sort of thing, make really high-tech stuff cheap and portable, and who knows what they'll do. So I like that. I thought that was a cool story.
That's cool. Good story.
All right, what else are we going to talk about? You guys have anything else on your list?
There's been a lot in the news about Steve Jobs having passed, and not so much coverage of Dennis Ritchie.
So I don't know who Dennis Ritchie is, but don't tell anyone. And
that's pretty sad. And for that, and not only that, but also screwing up the initial recording of the podcast, you are fired.
Okay. I'll see you guys later.
Dennis Ritchie is the creator of the C programming language.
I've heard of that.
Oh.
And he also is the co-creator of the original Unix, developed at Bell Labs back in the day. He was 70 years old when he passed. He passed not long after Steve Jobs. He passed on the 12th.
If it weren't for that, we may have heard more about it.
Yeah, I think you're right there. But I think that this goes to show that we're more interested in gadgets than in actual practical use of technology.
Well, I don't know. I might argue with you with that a little bit. I think that Steve Jobs was out in the public and was a public figure, and everyone knows who he was. I don't think because he creates cool gadgets, but I think it's more. I think it's because it's more. He goes out and he does press releases and announces the next big thing that everyone is going to have in their pocket. That's a little bit of an exaggeration, but you know what I mean. This guy is doing more of the behind-the-scenes stuff, right? He's doing C. He's doing what else did he do? Unix and such, and
Unix,
stuff.
yeah.
And your everyday person might not even know what the heck C and Unix is, but they sure as heck know what an iPhone is.
Yeah, I've never seen a commercial for the C programming language.
Ironically, iOS wouldn't exist without C, though.
That's true.
Exactly.
Well, and C and Linux. I mean, which is based on Unix, right? iPhone is probably using all kinds of this guy's technologies, and we don't even know it.
Exactly. So, like with the Mac OS X, when Mac OS X came out, Mac OS X was based off of FreeBSD. FreeBSD is a variant of early Unix, in fact. And I believe iOS is based off of BSD as well. It's not the same, nearly the same as Mac OS X or whatever, but it is using technologies that this guy is the father of. And nobody knows, and only the geeks care.
He has some really good quotes on Wikipedia that I think.
Yes, he does.
Did you read these? Some of these are good. And since it's on Wikipedia, it has to be true. But the one it says, Usenet is a strange place. I'm not sure if he was the first person to make that observation. Usenet, for those who don't remember, is kind of a forums-based discussion area on the internet that still exists, but is really just for geeks these days. Unix is very simple. It just takes a genius to understand its simplicity. C is quirky, flawed, and an enormous success.
What's funny is that I think he wrote C first, and then he wrote Unix afterwards with Ken Thompson. But they used assembly, I think, for the first version of Unix.
Huh. That's interesting.
Yeah. But later, C was...
C has the power of assembly language and the convenience of assembly language.
Yeah.
Oh, that's geek humor there. I like that. Huh. So he died at the age of 70.
Yeah.
Interesting.
All right. Well, let's have a moment of silence for both gentlemen.
Yep, Dennis Ritchie and Steve Jobs.
See, he already forgot his name.
No, I didn't.
He's still thinking about pregnant women.
Rennis Ditchy.
Oh, wow.
Oh. All right, fellas. Well, we're going to try and make this a short one here since we spent so much time to get it up and running to begin with. But now we'll be ready for next time, right? Won't have any problems next time. Yeah, right. No one's going to call me out on that either. Great. So we will see everyone next time, and I don't know when next time is. We're going to discuss that after the show. But you can find out. You can go to techguy.tv to find out, and that's also where you'll find past episodes. In the meantime, let's say goodbye to everybody. First, we'll go over here to Jake. Have a good one, Jake. Anything you want to plug? Do you have a blog or a Twitter account or some illegal underground black market thing?
Hey, you're not supposed to know about that. No plugs. I live in a shack in the woods with no electricity.
Is that right?
With a sword hanging on the wall.
There is a sword hanging on the wall.
That's for slaying Apple users, so be careful.
That is frightening. I hadn't noticed that. Good observation. And thank you, Brian. You have anything? Have you been updating your website? I haven't looked at it lately.
No, not really. It's been a bit of a year of transition, so my updates have been limited. But I am at brianmhansen.com and on Twitter as Brian M. Hansen. And on the forums at Tech Guy, I think I'm still Handy9.
Right on. And how about Mr. McCarthy with this swell hat? And that's about all I can see of you in the video. That's kind of interesting. Oh, there you go. There you are.
You can find me at linuxfile.org, linuxfile on the forums, and linuxfile on Twitter.
I thought you were Windows File now.
Nope.
What happened
Especially
to Windows
after
File?
Well, Windows File, well, the backup of the website kind of got lost.
Oops.
Yeah.
I would blame that on Linux.
I'm going to blame the administrator of that server. Definitely. Especially when he went on there and deleted the database. Yeah.
You know what? That reminds me of a funny story, Dan.
Let's tell this story, Mike, please, because I haven't relived this one for a year.
We can take a vote if you want. But
yes, let's hear the story.
So once upon a time, there was a database that I had of all of my customers for my business, and I had a database guy working on this server.
Wait.
Am I not telling it properly?
First of all, the system was written by me. Now, albeit that the system was, in green and blue.
I remember that first layout. I wish I still had a copy of it.
But I did write this system.
Right.
Right,
so that's why you didn't know, how to properly update things in it, because you weren't really familiar with it.
Piss off.
So, needless to say, someone, we won't mention any names or put up any pictures on the screen, but someone accidentally ran a piece of code, and for anyone who knows SQL, he ran an update code and forgot to put the where in, I believe. And so it applied the first name of Dan to all of the customers.
Every customer. But thankfully enough,
so all of my customers were named Dan.
We will take over the world.
Anyhow, it was not so funny at the time until we found the backup, and we had only a handful of customers who weren't in the backup, and we had to go out through forums and try to figure out whether or not their names were actually Dan. But yeah, it was a good time. So anyhow, I can tell from the crying baby that it's time for us to move on, though.
She just missed the puppy. Hey, what was the puppy's name?
Okay. We gotta go.
Tell everyone we said hi, Brian.
Will do.
All right. Have a good one, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, I can do that.
I gotta say, Jake, watching you pet your cat on screen is a little bit creepy. I'm really thinking of like Gargamel or something.
He looks like, with the sword in the background, it looks like he's getting ready to take over the world. He's like
the sword.
Yeah, you've got the sword in the back. You're petting your cat. You look a little bit evil. I think
I'll get you, Gadget.
We just need a move.
I don't think I can. Let me see if I can muster one up.
Love it. I'm totally going to use that.